Hello, good day, and welcome to the program Eyes on Corruption. My name is Jay Ehizefa Ohale. I'm reaching you from multiple social media platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and of course our website jcsdn.org. And the program today is Eyes on Corruption, and the topic is Asiwaju's purported connection with drug cartels in the United States. What is your take on this? Any moral justification for Asiwaju to still want to rule Nigeria? This is the question for today. Over the past recent weeks, a lot of issues have come up regarding the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Party, Alhaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is vying for the post of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the most black, the most populous black nation on earth, and the giant of Africa, so to say. So there have been insinuations that there were allegations against the presidential candidate of the APC in the United States, and to that effect, court documents were released and tendered in the social media and have been making rounds to enlighten the people on what has transpired in decades back concerning linking of the presidential candidate of All Progressives Party to be linked to have been linked to some drug cartels in the US, in the United States of America. And the question that beckons on us is the fact that persons of such character, persons of who have been signaled and identified as being linked to drug cartels, can such person, under any moral justification, still want to be the president of a country, the, to say the least, the country that is of over 200 million citizens, a country that is adjudged the most populous black nation on earth? This is the question for today. A lot of people have come on his defense and trying to defend the fact that he was never indicted, or sorry, he was never convicted, and the fact that there is even a dent in one's character as to have been identified to be linked to drug cartels, to have been in, to have been singled out as having been linked with money laundering of some sort. I think there is every moral justification for people to want to say such person should not, and as a matter of fact, attempt by any means to come close to the seat of power. And that is the question we want to look at today. In On that note, I just want you to sit back and relax as we play the jingles for Eyes on Corruption, the program.
Eyes on Corruption, Global Coalition for Security and Democracy in Nigeria, GCSDN presents Eyes on Corruption, a weekly x-ray of social and political issues. Eyes on Corruption, an expose on issues that bother on corruption-related practices in Nigeria. Eyes on Corruption, informative, educative, and enlightening. Eyes on Corruption, every Thursday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Join us on our social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and our website, gcsdn.org. Host, J. Ehizefua Ohali.
Thank you and welcome back to the program Eyes on Corruption, a program that comes to you every Thursday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Now, the topic today is Asiwaju's purported connection with drug cartels in the United States. What is your take on this? Is there any moral justification for Bola Ahmed Tinubu, aka Jagaban Asiwaju, to want to rule Nigeria, the most populous black nation on earth? This is our topic for today, and we welcome your inputs, your suggestions, and of course concerns. If you are concerned, if you have some concerns, if you have something to say about this topic, please feel free to air your comments, to put up whatever you have on the comment section, and we'll be looking at it together. To join us on this program, you can join us on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, Twitter, and of course from our website, gcsdn.org. Now, the campaigns have started and are going on very, very vigorously. All the presidential aspirants of the various political parties are coming out and rolling out their drums and calling on their supporters to come out en masse and support their parties' candidates in drumming support towards the 2023 general elections. To this end, we are examining the characters, competence, expertise, and capability of the various presidential candidates. And today we have on our table the president of the APC, All Progressive Congress, and that is the person of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the flag bearer of that party. And we are looking at his character, his competence. He was a former governor of Lagos State and had a two-term tenure that there's a total of 8 years. He, to a great extent, people have argued that he was able to develop Lagos, that he built up Lagos, and a few other persons have had a divergent opinion and views about this same character, who is the presidential candidate of the pro people of the APC. And they have argued that, well, Lagos had been in existence, and Lagos has been the commercial nerve center of Nigeria, and of course the capital of the nation for decades before it was relocated to Abuja as the federal capital territory. That even at that, before the emergence of democratic rule in Nigeria, Lagos was already built up to an enviable status. That Tinubu's actions in Lagos were just a child of circumstance. But people have also argued the fact that, well, even he have done well in Lagos State, but at this point in time, he is not a qualified or competent person to handle the affairs of the nation Nigeria, when in actual fact, Nigeria is almost likened to a failed state, and by virtue of the fact that he is alleged to be not of sound health and is alleged to have been fingered in some shady and dubious, deals, and of course linked to drug cartels, and had even forfeited properties and large chunks of cash in the United States, all in a bid to avert going to jail, that such a person cannot, as a matter of principle, as a matter of fact, be given the opportunity to be the president of a country like Nigeria. Because if that happens, Nigeria will be likened to, or even compared to, the places worse than Colombia, where drug lords take charge of society. But that is not the issue at this point in time. What we are trying to look at specifically is his linkage to the drug cartel and the court papers that were released from the United States of America court in Chicago. And there is in the forefront of this is an investigative journalist known as David Hundein. He has publicly come to challenge even one of the most adherent defenders of the presidential candidate in the person of Barrister Festus Keyamo, who is trying to defend Bola Ahmed Tinubu and trying to make people believe that this is not something to be considered at all. But people of good conscience are wanting to think, how can somebody who is fingered as a drug peddler be seen as the head of a country like Nigeria? How will Nigeria be seen by other countries, especially now that the image of the country is already eroded due to the fact that we have had almost 8 years of irresponsible government, almost 8 years of the worst in economic activities, almost 8 years of worse security situations, almost 8 years of worse infrastructural decadence in the nation Nigeria. And that is the crux of the matter today. How can such a person that is of questionable character, as adjudged by the documents from the Chicago court concerning linking the presidential aspirant to the drug cases in question, how can such a person be bequeathed with the opportunity of ruling a country as vast and dynamic as Nigeria? Now, that is the point. Now, let me just share with you a few clips to bring home what some of these points I am raising. Now, this is a documentary by an investigative journalist, David Hundein, and you will have a look. I will just flip through some of these portions of these, and you will see with me what we have to do. Let's watch.
According to court records from the United States Court of Appeals 7th Circuit, the DEA agents arrived at the property to execute a search warrant. After a 7-month FBI investigation involving Edwards' brother, Jimmy, had implicated him as the narcotics kingpin of Gary. Edwards did not open the door for the agents, who were forced to break into the house. He then fired 3 gunshots at them, after which he surrendered. DEA agents found weapons including a carbine rifle, thousands of dollars in cash, drug prepping equipment including a triple beam scale, and several grams of cocaine and heroin powder in the house. He was later sentenced to life in prison, but not before something about his business operation came to the fore. Federal investigators had determined that Edwards' heroin supply came from a Nigerian drug dealer in Chicago called Abiodun Agbele. Abiodun had earlier agreed to work for the feds in exchange for lighter sentencing, and as part of the plea deal, he revealed everything he knew about the heroin trade in Chicago. Located at the junction of 4 states with a combined population exceeding 27 million at the time, Chicago was a key trafficking hub in the American heroin trade, and as it turned out, the wholesale trade of an especially potent form of heroin from Southeast Asia in 1990 Chicago was controlled by Nigerian criminal gangs. The following excerpt is taken from the January 2001 Illinois Drug Threat Assessment, published by the U.S. Justice Department's National Drug Intelligence Center. Nigerian criminal groups are responsible for wholesale distribution of most of the SEA heroin shipped into Chicago. SEA heroin, which is 80 to 90% pure, is being sold by Nigerian traffickers for $80,000 to $1,000 per kilogram. Wholesalers in Chicago usually sell heroin without cutting it to minimize the handling of the product and their exposure to law enforcement. Now, Agbele himself was no criminal mastermind, however. As he testified under oath, that honor belonged to a man who went by the name of Adegboyega Moise Akonde, who was apparently his uncle. Shortly after Agbele's arrival in the US, Akonde had taken him under his wing and showed him the ropes of wholesale heroin trafficking. When Akonde returned to Nigeria in mid-1990, Agbele was left in charge of selling regular heroin shipments from Nigeria to Lee Edwards and delivering the profits to his uncle. In the meantime, the Nigerian-led heroin trade in Chicago fed an addiction epidemic that became so bad that it changed local health and law enforcement practices. For the first time, providing addicts with free access to safe syringes and needles to ensure that they did not share them and possibly spread HIV became the election will be annulled, the politician will be jailed, mates, there are no neighbors, there are no colleagues that remember him. Sometime in the mid-1970s, however, he somehow materialized at the international airport in Lagos, holding a passport with a US visa and a one-way ticket to Chicago in hand. From his arrival in Chicago in 1975, his story then becomes easier to track and verify. So what do we know about this guy? We know that he spent 2 years gaining an associate degree at Richard J. Daley College in Chicago. From there, he proceeded on to Chicago State University, where he studied accounting, completing his bachelor's degree in 1979. Subsequently, his story appeared straightforward and prosaic. He got a job as an accountant at Mobil Oil Nigeria Limited in Fairfax, Virginia, got married to Oluremi, went on to have 3 kids with her, after 3 fruitful indiscretions, shall we say. In a 2016 interview with The News, Tinubu claimed that his break into the financial big time case filed of a federal case from July 1993 containing clear and incontrovertible evidence that Bola Ahmed Tinubu was once in fact a bagman handling and laundering proceeds of heroin trafficking for a Nigerian drug ring in Chicago. Now, this is not the first time that the contents of this document have been reported, but other stories that have tried to report this story have typically not gone into the detail needed to drive home the point that the man who would be Nigeria's next president is in fact a drug criminal. Tinubu's vast army of media shills and spokespeople have spun an endless web of narratives explaining why what is written in black and white is all some kind of mistake or mischaracterization or fake news. And one of the most common defenses is what you can see on your screen right now. Taking advantage of a Nigerian knowledge gap that typically misunderstands financial transactions representing proceeds of drug trafficking. The investigation, which began in 1988, has identified Adegboyega Moise Akonde and his nephew Abiodun Agbele as key figures in the trade and distribution of heroin. The investigation identifies the third individual working with the duo to launder their money as a certain Bola Tinubu. In December 1989, Akonde takes Tinubu to a First Heritage Bank to open an individual money account. On the application, Tinubu gives his address as 7504 South Stewart Avenue or financial relationship with Agbele or Akonde.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's just a quick clip I showed, just to drive home the point that, there is this incident that happened and there are, claims and facts laid out for people to make informed decisions. But we can see that these are authentic documents from the courts in Chicago, and the investigative journalists had taken further steps, independently to get these documents out of the appropriate authorities to the public domain. And these are no longer hearsays, but these are facts that we can easily see that there was such an incident. But the question whether he was convicted does not even arise in this place. For being linked with this and to even go to the extent of getting the plea bargain, of course, US, because of the high cost of justice, So people, of course, the government will want to, get money out and so as to cut down the cost of the cost of the trial and all that. So he had forfeited properties, forfeited cash, in lieu of not going to jail anyway. So these are very important points that we must have. And for such a person linked with such dubious, high profile, case of drug abuse, of drug peddling, can, in all sense of reason, can we still allow such a person to be the president of our nation? That is the point. That is the question I throw open to everyone. Share your comments, suggestions, and of course, concerns as we go along in this program, and we will respond to them as they come. Now, and there's another angle to this point. Okay, so he was an employee, and to an extent, the amount of money in his account compared to what his earnings were, the mathematics did not add up. The mathematics did not add up. If you have time, look through the documents. It's a 50-page document from the court, which was brought to the public domain by journalist David Hunde. It's about a 50-page document. If you have, for information's sake, you can get them in the public domain and go through them carefully, and that will be able to assist you in making some informed decisions, as to, the veracity of the points raised so far. Now, sometime a couple of days ago in Arise TV or channels, I can't remember exactly, Festus Keyamo was seen to be defending these issues. And let's watch and see what he had to say and what we can take, using our own sense of reasoning, what we can take out from these, various versions of the stories. Sit back and relax and watch this.
Tinubu Shetima Presidential Campaign Council, Festus Keyamo, SAN, clarified that Tinubu was not a defendant in the drug trafficking case in the United States, and also said he will not respond to the invitation for a debate by investigative journalist David Hundeyin, as is unknown to him. Hundeyin, who had earlier written an article on Bola Tinubu in a post on his official Twitter handle, had asked Keyamo to appear in a debate on any television station of his choice to discuss the story about Tinubu's case. Joining us on this show this morning, as we discuss his open challenge to Festus Keyamo, amongst other issues, is David Hundeyin. Welcome to the morning show, David. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, David, let's go straight into the matter. You had invited Festus Keyamo to come and have a debate with you on this issue of the eligibility of the presidential candidate of the APC within the purview of Section 137 of the 1999 Constitution. And he says you are unknown to him. Okay? What really are the facts of this matter, and what is your interest in it?
Well, the facts of the matter are clearly contained in the documents, which I'm sure most Nigerians who follow the news cycle would have seen by now. And for any who haven't read those documents, what I would recommend is that you don't have to take my word or anybody else's word for it. Go read those documents. It might be a bit bulky, but sit down for 30 minutes and you get through it. What the facts established in those documents are unimpeachable, and it's written in very clear language in black and white that Bola Ahmed Tinubu was involved in heroin trafficking. For a fact, it stated clearly in the documents that the investigating agents in the US, who came from the IRS and the FBI, stated that they had probable cause to believe that over $1.4 million of funds found in his accounts were the proceeds of heroin trafficking. The drug traffickers who were responsible for generating these funds were also named. And if you read those documents, he acknowledged his relationship to those drug traffickers who went by the name of Abiodun Agbele and Muiz Adegboyega Akonde. In addition to having a close relationship with those people and being on the board of a company called Compass Finance and Investment Company with both of them. In fact, his wife also had a joint bank account with Muiz Akonde's wife. And the address he opened one of the accounts in question was the same address that Muiz Akonde, who was the drug kingpin, used as his drop-off point for heroin in Chicago. And perhaps most significantly of all, by his own admission in these documents, at the time all of this was going on, he was a treasurer at Mobile with a fixed monthly income of $2,400. And by his own admission, he had no other source of income. So somebody with $2,400 of monthly income, which comes to about $28,800 annually, had about $1.4 million in the bank, which on its own is bad enough. Now, it's also clearly outlined in those documents exactly where those funds came from, because he himself admitted to the IRS investigating agent, Kevin Moss, that on several occasions he had paid money belonging to Abiodun Agbele and Muiz Akonde into his accounts before he then did an about face and claimed that he didn't know them.
So, ladies and gentlemen, just let me know your take on these points that you have heard today and how it is going to affect your reasoning, your thinking. If you are a true patriotic Nigeria, or just let's not even talk about Nigeria. If you are an employer of labor and persons of such character, is applying to take charge of your organization, to run your organization, will you, in all honesty, will you employ such a person to run your organization for you? Now we are talking about somebody vying for the presidency of a country as vast as Nigeria. If we are sincere with our hearts and minds, will you, in all honesty, allow such a person to run a nation that is as complex as Nigeria? We're talking about corruption in high and low places. We're talking about insecurity of lives and property. We are talking about moral and social decadence in every ramification. We're talking about bureaucratic bottlenecks that stifle developmental agendas. We're talking about inflation of budget, corruption that has got to the level of that you need to grease the palm of the legislators before budgets can be approved. In other words, budgets will be padded for their own sake. It's that a country we want to bequeath to our children and our children's children. The older generations have failed us. Our generations have failed us. Must the next generation fail? Must we fail the next generation? No. Let us bequeath a virile nation, a solid nation, a strong nation to our children and our children's children by doing the right thing. And doing the right thing is vote competent people with character and expertise, with sincerity of purpose, people we can trust, not people with shady past, not people with unknown pedigree, not people with falsehood in every ramification. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the comment section. I know there are some comments waiting for us to be read. Channel for the emancipation for a Free Nigeria. Greetings from UK. Thank you very much. Yes, we have channel for the emancipation for a Free Nigeria. Greetings from UK. Thank you very much, and we are glad to hear from you. Share your comments, concerns, suggestions, and of course, we'll be getting back to you all. So, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for Nigerians to rise up to the challenge, to take the bull by the horn, to stand on what they truly believe, to stand and fight against the oppressors of the nation, against the oppressors of the masses, against the looters of our commonwealth, against the common criminals that are holding us spellbound in this nation, the common criminals that have their knees on the financial neck of our nation, that is crumbling every activity in our nation by their dubious and nefarious means. They are united for a common purpose, to loot our country dry and to further pauperize the masses. That is their game plan, and we must not allow them to succeed. Nigerians, go out and support your candidates. Support a good and better Nigeria. Support a candidate you can trust, and that is a person of Peter Obi. Peter Obi and Dati Ahmed, they are going to do justice to our nation, and we, in agreement with them, will rescue our nation from the hands of the political criminals and thugs that are unleashed on our nation's financial and economic lifeline. Thank you very much. And until I come your way again, this is your regular host, Jay Ehizefa Okale, signing off. Peace.